Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's February 4th, 2026. It is New Comic Book Day. So the temperatures have finally cracked the teens and it's sunny outside. So wind chills be damned. Me and Hank are going to hop in the bike and pedal through some ridiculous snow to make it up to our comic book shop to pick up our new books this week. And then we're going to pop back here to talk about a couple of things that I liked from last week, a few things that I didn't, and then we'll talk about the new books that I picked up. So let's hit the trails. All right, so we are back from the bike ride up to the shop to grab our new books. It was a joy to get out of the house. It was still very cold, still very snowy, but we've kind of been cooped up for a few days, so it was nice for us to get out of the house, and I'm sure my wife enjoyed Hank and I not being around for a few hours so she could enjoy a cup of coffee in peace. Speaking of, I got my tea here, and it's a special one because I'm using the I Have Issues mug so that I can segue into saying that I have a pal. His name is Paul, aka Mr. McGroovy. He's got a YouTube channel. It's fantastic. And he has this show on there called People with Issues, and it's great. It's like right up my alley because starting this, part of the thing is like I understand my mania and why I love this type of stuff, but it's always nice to get some a perspective on other people's collections, what drives them, like what similarities do we have. And this is all to say that like the show is great, and today he dropped an episode where I am the guest, and hopefully I don't crash the car and ruin this wonderful show that he has going. But it's great, and I will link in the description his channel and the interview with me, and you can go check it out, and then you can let me know. You should stop watching this right now, and you should immediately go and watch the interview with him and come back and tell me how it went. I'm looking forward to checking it out because Lord knows I love to listen to myself talk. So, that being said, It's New Comic Book Wednesday. We were very excited to pick up the books that we did pick up. It was a much better week than last week. Last week was one of those weeks that like made me question why I pick up new comics. It was just I've long been, there was a time period where Marvel tried to like stop making, they didn't stop making X-Men books, but they were definitely trying to hamper them and make the Inhumans a thing. And during that time period, and especially during that like great X-Men reread that I talk about, I did a pretty decent job of like finding, I became an X-Men completionist to a point that it didn't need to be. And I say this in regards of like, if Wolverine made an appearance in the Runaways and I don't normally read the Runaways, I would get that issue of the Runaways and try to figure out where that Wolverine appearance would have fit in the rest of the X-Men continuity. And sort of, I've got this insane spreadsheet, and it kind of became a little bit of a mania and kind of like something that I was like, I don't necessarily know if it was like, it was just like, it was sort of like a point of like, oh yeah, I even talk about it in the video, in the People with Issues, and clearly this is an issue of mine. And last week, or maybe the week before, there was like this Psylocke book that came out, $4.99. Don't like the cover. And I was reading it and I was like, this is one of those between the raindrops, and sometimes I love those, sometimes I don't, but like, it's like, do I need to get that? I don't think I do. And I think I'm okay not being the guy that has every single X-Men appearance. I'm okay with that not being like the flag that I'm planting in the world. I don't know. I just like, I know that as a, I got some fellas in my life that grew up in my comic book shop that are older than me, guys that were able to like, got one pal in particular who like, he legitimately picked up an Avengers #1 off of the rack back in the day. Okay. And when those guys, would get to the point where they'd be like getting out of the game, they'd be like, oh, I'm going to cash in the chips and keep some Marvel Masterwork stuff and a couple issues here and there, but I'm not breaking my back carrying long boxes around anymore. And they'd eventually like sell off their collections and, take some crazy trips or buy a house or whatever you do when you unload the massive amount of comics that we all have. I always thought like, not me, man. You're going to Viking funeral me with this. And this is not to say that I plan on, like, I'm not, in no way, shape, or form. But I'm starting, as I get older, I'm starting to understand why there might be like I got to cut some stuff out of here. I know that's part of my thing with the Cornerbox Classics is like, I'm finally, like, I've been going to cons my entire life, like the little like Knights of Columbus Hall dirt con shows, guys selling books out of the back of their trucks and picking up quarter books and dollar books and filling runs and all this stuff. And I'm now, I was like, oh, one day when I retire, I'm going to read all this stuff. And then I was like, oh man, I'm, in this economy, I'm not retiring, so I might as well start now. And so I've been doing that, and it's all been great, like 60s, 70s, 80s Marvel. It's all fantastic. But there's some of the stuff nowadays where I'm like, maybe I'm not getting as much as my bang for my buck. And maybe instead of buying that issue of Psylocke Ninja, I should put that money towards getting that 80s Moon Knight series or, Anyways, so that's on my mind. So, last week's books. Most of them I will not talk about because I don't have great feelings about them. One that I am going to talk about, Spider-Man Annual #1. I enjoyed it, but it was a fun story. Like, introducing a new character. It was a Spider-Man story. But again, this is one of those things where it's like, is it as good as a Spider-Man Annual from the 80s? Tune into Cornerbox Classics to find out. But what bothered me about this is, and I touched on it last week, is that annuals used to hold weight. And by weight, I mean they were heavy because they were 64 pages. And that was usually where Marvel, like, punched in all their events instead of every storyline and regular title being curtailed and, you know, shunted aside to make way for the big event. They did that in the annual, and they don't do that anymore, and it kind of bums me out. And this was $4.99 for a regular 32-page comic. It's not, come on, remember the old square-bound annuals? 64 pages, maybe an 8-page backup story introducing some new talent that 10 years later would be like a superstar. There'd be bonus pinup galleries. There was like some meat on the bones that there's not on this. And that kind of bummed me out. It was still a fun story, but it was like, did you guys just slap annual on there because you forgot to tell this story in the regular Spider-Man thing? And I would say that it doesn't even really like tie into the regular Spider-Man thing, but there is like a tiny 4-page backup story that's written by Joe Kelly. I mean, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. But while I was kind of having this thought of like, man, they don't make annuals like they used to, and I was like getting into my old man ways, this came out at the wrong week, topped with a bunch of other books where I was like, oh, if I want to, you know, get some of those. What I did love, so you're not like, Sean, you're being so down on this. What I did love this week, Iron Man #1 or 681 if you're going by legacy numbering, which I love to do. This is written by Joshua Williamson, who I believe does a ton of work over at DC, so I am unfamiliar. And the artist was Carmen Carnero. And I checked my CLZ app. I like switched it over to creators and realized this is the only Joshua Williamson book I've ever read. And I was delighted. Like, trying to think of loved Fractions run that came out like right when the first Downey Jr. movie came out in 2008. You know, I enjoyed Dan Slott's Iron Man, but not nearly as much as I enjoyed Slott's Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. And then it's sort of just like basically the high water mark for me of modern, I guess, like not 80s, not 70s, not 90s, but post 2000s. I guess it's 2026, and I'm like, a book from 2000 is modern, but that's how, you know, I'm not getting old, you're getting old. There were some books that came out after the movie where it was like writers trying to write Tony like he was Robert Downey Jr., which, I mean, I get, because it's like Robert Downey Jr. did such a good job as Iron Man in the films, but like, you're not, like, no matter how good of a writer you are, you're not Robert Downey Jr. ad-libbing. You know what I mean? And so it just sort of felt like kind of frustrating. So this, to me, like, I got done with this and I was like, holy smokes, this feels like MCU Iron Man, but also feels like comic book Iron Man at the same time. And it was a lot of fun. Like, just, it was like pedal to the metal, Iron Man fun, exactly how you'd want. Sets up what I imagine is going to be a great run / story arc. So this was like the high water mark of the week for me. Really loved it. If you didn't pick it up, check it out. The art's great. And it's just a fun Iron Man comic. And after the last one, like Steampunk Iron Man or whatever it was, that is a welcome, you know, happy to have Tony back. And well, I mean, he wasn't gone, but like happy to have an Iron Man book back that I'm excited about. So that's last week's books, and a weird rant about how sometimes I regret dropping coin on mediocre new books when I could be buying some long sought after classics. Am I getting old? Okay, so this week's books, much like much more excited about this week's books than I am last week's books. So I could just chalk up to last week just being poor scheduling on Marvel's part. Because I'm sure there's indies out there and DC books that everyone's super jazzed about. And that's great. I'm super happy for you. All right. Wolverine, Legacy number 407. When I talked about the last month, when the last issue of Wolverine came out, I was talking about how, like, I wasn't fully sold. Like, this is one of the books where I was like, do I continue on? And I was pleasantly surprised with issue number 14 or 406. And I forgot. I was, like, super bummed after I made the video. I was like, oh, man, I forgot to mention. I got so jazzed as a dude who just completed his run of Volume 1 of Alpha Flight. Found 2 later issues of that and was very happy to finish that off. I was super jazzed to see Alpha Flight at the end of this, and this is a John Byrne homage variant, and I do love John Byrne. So I really enjoyed issue number 14. I'm looking forward to reading number 15. I'm even more excited about it now that I know that Alpha Flight's going to be in it, so I'm pretty jazzed about that. So that is a book that I was like, do I continue? Like my existential crisis of like, do I keep reading Wolverine? And the answer is yes. They got me. They were like, here's an Alpha Flight. You live so close to Canada. Here's your Alpha Flight hook. Up next, Storm, Earth's Mightiest Mutant. I did not like the Age of Revelation Storm title, but I did like the book before that. Storm's kind of it's a weird one for me because I love Storm. But I don't, like, I miss Claremont Storm. And I often feel like not everybody has the right handle on the character. I enjoy her being an Avenger over in Jed MacKay's, and so this being called Earth's Mightiest Mutant, I mean, I can't argue that. And I am hoping for, you know, just a fun Storm story. So let's see where that goes. Amazing Spider-Man number 985. I have talked about this ad nauseum. I enjoy the space side more than the Norman Ben Reilly side, but I am enjoying the Ben Reilly and Norman Osborn side of it. So I am looking forward to hopefully what I imagine might possibly be the reunion of like Pete actually getting back to Earth. So, I mean, I have really dug Joe Kelly's run on Amazing Spider-Man. I've got no complaints so far. And I'm a fan of John Romita Jr.'s art. I know that's, people are hard on him these days, but, you know, I know it's a built-in nostalgic soft spot, but what are you going to do? I can't argue that. Oh, and it looks like Todd Nauck does some art in that, and I always like his stuff. Avengers 801. So Avengers 800, it was good, but like I said, felt kind of like a clip show of Jed MacKay's run, which I guess was good. And it was one of those like super thick issues, and the centerfold page, like the center page, popped out of my comic, which bummed me out. And that book was like $7.99, and so I was like, come on, Marvel's quality control. But I've been enjoying Jed MacKay's run. It's been fun. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how it wraps up and very curious what's next in the Avengers world. I'm hoping that we get, like, whatever comes next, I hope it's not one long cosmic event. You know, I don't necessarily want to say that I want a grounded Avengers story, because I don't think, like, it's the Avengers. Does grounded, like, that's not the right term, but I don't want a long, like, I've got 50 issues to tell this one story. I just kind of want, like, Kurt Busiek, George Perez, Avengers back. Magic and Classics number 1. Not a fan of the cover. I don't know why. Like, I looked this dude up because I don't know what DNA, like, but I guess it's David Nakayama. And it's like, it's good art. It's just not my cup of tea. speaking of which, there's some shops in the area that get variant covers. My shop, which I love dearly, it's my favorite shop in all the land. Kind of a smaller shop. I don't think order, I think with like, I'm not 100% sure, but I think with incentive variants or whatever, there was a variant that I saw where I was like, oh, I'd much prefer that over the A cover, but like my shop doesn't get variant covers, and I'm not gonna not pick up a book at my shop to give them the money to keep the lights on and go somewhere else to get a variant cover. So I get this cover. But I love Colossus. I love Magic. I love Magic and Colossus, so this seems like it might be up my alley. And it's got the Shadows of Tomorrow thing, which means it's not one of those Between the Raindrops thing. So I'm hoping for it's been, as an X-Men fan, I think that Illyana and Peter Rasputin are two of the most tragic and wonderful characters in comics. Like, their story in Claremont's X-Men is just beautiful. And I feel like around the time period, if you're familiar, that they made Juggernaut like bond with the Sidorak Stone, and I said Juggernaut. When they made Colossus bond with the Sidorak Stone and become like the Colossus Juggernaut, I feel like he's been a mess ever since then. And it's been real rough. And so, honestly, my hope for this is to just get, like, old school Peter Rasputin back in this. Even if it is, like, a story of him getting back to... I don't know what the story is, because I don't read solicits. I'm just like, it's got Colossus in it. Sign me up! So, fingers crossed. We'll see next week. I'll be like, hey, it's great. Okay. Up next, my favorite of the X-Men titles right now, Uncanny X-Men, written by Gail Simone. I've really been enjoying this one, and this one seems, from like a preview page that I saw, that it might be Gambit heavy, and I do love Gambit, so I'm pretty jazzed about this. It's a creepy cover talking about monsters, so maybe I'll gotta wait till it's nighttime and creepy out, and we'll see where this goes, but I've got tons of faith in Gail Simone that I'm going to enjoy that Uncanny X-Men. So, my last book of the week. The reason why I saved it for last is because Planet of the Apes versus the Fantastic Four. I'd never seen Planet of the Apes. I caught glimpses of it when my parents were watching it back in the day, and the ape suits absolutely scared the hell out of me. So I steered clear of it. And so when I saw this pop up in my little, like, hey, this is coming out tomorrow and you pre-ordered it because it's got the Fantastic Four in it and you love the Fantastic Four, I thought to myself, I should probably watch Planet of the Apes. So yesterday, while young Hank was napping, I watched 1968 classic Planet of the Apes, and let me tell you, I loved it. I loved it. So good. Shot really beautifully. At least that part where they're like, you know, the whole walking through until they actually get taught. And there's a whole level of, like, you know, the theological questions brought in the movie. I just found fast. Like, I'm talking about a movie that is legitimately like 55 years old. But it was new to me. And I wanted to be familiar with the characters in the movie because obviously they're going to be in this. And so where initially this was a book where I was like, oh man, I'm kind of retroactively like, should I have pre-ordered this? Because I don't, you know, I was happy that it forced me to finally revisit that classic instead of just catching a glimpse of it when my parents were watching it and still being terrified. Do I imagine that I will watch the sequels? I don't know. Have you seen them? Are they good? Let me know. But yesterday was my introduction to the Planet of the Apes, and so I am actually very much looking forward to this because I thoroughly enjoyed the movie yesterday. I think it's hilarious. But hey, whatever it takes, man. So yeah, I will let you know next Wednesday if I'm fully in on Planet. Pretty soon, you're gonna the room's gonna be. It's no longer Marvel. It's just gonna be Planet of the Apes. So that is where I'm at comic book wise. This is the stack for this week. Those are the new books. So yeah, so happy that we got back on the bike. Happy that my chat with the awesome Mr. McGroovy is finally seeing the light of day. Hopefully I didn't say anything too controversial. I don't want any smoke from my fellow comic book collectors. I'm just trying to do this for fun. Let's see. And this weekend, I've got Corner Box Classics for the second week in April of 1982. And if I can think of them off the top of my head, I think it's like there's Defenders, Iron Man, Marvel Team Up. Yeah, I think it's Marvel Team Up. Fantastic Four. There's some good stuff in there. Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. It's been good fun doing the Corner Box Classics. So that is our weekly ride up to the comic shop. I'm much more excited. I'm way more excited tonight to read my new comics than I was last week. So, and next week's looks like a small but good run of books that are coming out for us next week. So fingers crossed. We're getting more snow, so we took advantage of today. So we'll see if we're able to bike up next week, because it's also going to get, it's cold, but it's going to get even worse. We're trapped in the polar... I'm in the mitten. We're surrounded by water. We're trapped in the polar vortex. I live, hop, skip, and a jump to Canada. All right. So that was it. Let me know what you think of the books. Let me know if you've ever decided to cut books. Like, what's your criteria for cutting books? What makes you go like, this is it, I've had enough, drop the books? Let me know in the comments, because I need some help. This is my cry for help. Yeah. And, subscribe. That'd be nice. Getting close to 100. That's exciting. And, yeah. Thanks for listening to me rant, and thanks for taking this ride with us. And I'll see you on the weekend with the Corner Box Classics. Bye.